Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. In this lesson, we are going to learn the comparative and superlative adjectives in Persian. We are going to start this lesson with comparative adjectives, then we are going to go over the superlative adjectives. Also, there's another lesson for comparison of equality when we want to express that two things are equal. So this is also a very important lesson, but it's covered in a separate lesson. You can find it here, the name of the lesson. And now let's just start with this one, comparative adjectives. Let's start with comparative adjectives, and we just said that comparative adjectives are used to compare two things. In English, the suffix er is added to the adjective, but in Farsi, the suffix tar is added to the adjective. We have an example here for bozorg, the adjective bozorg. We add tar to it, so it's going to give us bozorg tar. We have an example here. We want to say my shirt is bigger than your shirt. The other thing that you need to know is in English, the word than is used to compare two things, but in Farsi, the preposition as is used, which means from. It's like literally we need to say something like my shirt from your shirt bigger is. So this sentence is پیراهنم از پیراهنت بزرگتر است. There are two things that you need to know with comparative adjectives, and we are using the same example. The first thing is that the suffix tar can be either attached to the adjective or it can be written separately. For example, here you see bozorgtar, the suffix is attached to the adjective, but in this example it is written separately. So there's really no difference which one. But I would say as a general rule, the smaller the adjective, usually the suffix is attached, but if the adjective is like longer, then maybe it's like written separately. But again, there's no like rule for that. The other thing that you need to know is that the comparative adjective can also come earlier after the subject. For example, here we can also say something like literally like my shirt bigger from your shirt is. So we can also say پیراهنم بزرگتر از پیراهنت هست. Versus the previous sentence, the comparative adjective came closer to the verb and it was پیراهنم از پیراهنت بزرگتر است. So there's really no difference on the order. You can either say it this way, or you can also bring it after the subject and say it this way. Now let's take a look at a few examples. The first one, it says this blue skirt is shorter than that red skirt. So the adjective here is short, and short is کوتاه. So we need to add the suffix tar to کوتاه to make it shorter. And then here are the other vocab. So blue is آبی, skirt is دامن, and then red is قرمز. So remember, it's like literally we need to say something like this skirt blue from that skirt red shorter is. And again, because in Farsi the order of noun and its modifiers is the opposite than English. English you say blue skirt, in Farsi we say skirt blue, and we need to connect these two, skirt blue and skirt red, with an ezafe. Alright, so this sentence is این دامن آبی از آن دامن قرمز کوتاه‌تر است. And then the informal of on is اون, and the informal of کوتاه‌تر است is کوتاه‌تره. So I will read this sentence one more time in informal language and a little bit more faster. این دامن آبی از اون دامن قرمز کوتاه‌تره. Let's take a look at another example, but before that, if you need the flashcards for this lesson, I have put a link to it in the description box. Alright, so this example says my hat is prettier than my husband's hat. So here is the adjective pretty, and pretty in Farsi is either قشنگ or زیبا. Usually in my lesson, I use قشنگ, but this time let's go with زیبا. Alright, so here are the vocab. Hat is کلاه, and then husband is شوهر. We write it as شوهر, if you can see, but this letter U, it's not pronounced here. So it's like there's a short vowel O on it, so شوهر. Alright, so literally we need to say something like my hat from my husband's hat prettier is. And also here we have possessive adjectives. So you need to know the possessive endings. We have already covered this in the lesson about possessive adjectives and pronouns. So let's start the sentence. کلاهم از کلاه شوهرم زیباتر است. And then the informal of زیباتر است is زیباتره. So the sentence in informal is کلاهم از کلاه شوهرم زیباتره. Now let's go over the two irregular comparative adjectives. So far we said with adjectives we just add a tar to the adjective to make it comparative. But there's two irregulars. خوب, which means good. We do not add a tar to it to make it better. It has an irregular one is بهتر, which is the same in English too. Like good, we do not say gooder, we say better. And also for خیلی, which means very, we do not add a tar to it, but rather there's like an irregular version of it is بیشتر. One more time. خوب, بهتر, خیلی, بیشتر, which you just need to memorize them. And also we do not write it separately. We always write it together. So this is wrong. The same with بیشتر too. بیشتر also we do not write it separately. Let's take a look at an example with better. So we want to say this restaurant is better than that restaurant. So better we said is بهتر. And restaurant is the same word, it's just the pronunciation is different. We say restaurant. Alright, so we are going to start with this restaurant. And then literally we need to say something like this restaurant from that restaurant better is. این رستوران از آن رستوران بهتر است. The informal is not that different. On becomes un and بهتر است is بهتره. So this sentence in informal and a little bit faster is این رستوران از اون رستوران بهتره. Now let's see an example with more. So we said more is بیشتر. So now we want to say this glass has more water than that glass. Glass is لیوان and water is آب. So literally we need to say something like this glass from that glass more water has. So we are going to start with this glass. این لیوان از آن لیوان بیشتر آب دارد. The informal of the sentence is on becomes un and آب دارد becomes آب داره. Like the verb دارد becomes داره. So this sentence in informal is این لیوان از اون لیوان بیشتر آب داره. We finished the comparative adjectives. Now we are going to move on with the superlative adjectives. Superlative adjectives are used to compare three or more things. And then in English, you add this suffix to the adjective. In Farsi, we add tarin to the adjective. Here's an example. We have بزرگ. So we go ahead and add tarin to it. So it's going to give me بزرگترین. And again, this suffix can be either attached to the last letter of the adjective or we can also write it separately too. It doesn't matter. So here we have an example. We have this is the biggest house in the city. So literally we need to say something like this biggest house in this city is این بزرگترین خانه در این شهر است. In the next slide, I am going to explain to you about the order of the noun and adjective with the superlative adjectives. So far, we have learned in previous lessons that when we have a noun and then this noun has a modifying adjective, first comes the noun and then the adjective in Persian, and then they need to be connected with ezafe. which in English first comes the adjective, then the noun. However, when it comes to superlative adjectives, it's not the case. The superlative adjectives, the order is like English actually. So here we have an example. We want to say biggest city. So as you can see, first in English comes the superlative, then the noun. So this also in Farsi is بزرگترین شهر. So first we have the superlative adjective and then the noun. And then no ezafe. Students, they have the tendency to flip this and say something like شهر first and then بزرگترین, and then they connect it with ezafe because of what they have learned so far out of habit. But no, just remember this as an exception, that this is exactly the order, is like English, and we do not add ezafe. Let's take a look at an example with superlative adjectives. We want to say, here is the brightest room of this house. Let's say you're showing a house to someone and you're like, here is the brightest room. All right, so bright is roshan. So we need to add the suffix tarin to it to make it superlative. And here are the vocab. So here is inja, room is otaq, khane, house is khane, informal is khune. So again, we do not flip the order of noun and adjective. So literally we need to say something like, here the brightest room of this house is. اینجا روشن‌ترین اتاق این خانه است. So the ezafe here stands for of in English, but there is no ezafe between the superlative روشن‌ترین and اتاق. Alright, the informal, it's only خانه است, the contraction becomes خونه است. It's kind of like a drastic contraction. And it's from khune, and then because khune ends in a silent he, it's like we kind of drop it, we put a short vowel at on it, and then becomes khunast. All right, one more time, this sentence in informal and a little bit faster. اینجا روشن‌ترین اتاق این خونه است. Let's see another example. Now we want to say this is the shortest building in this city. So short is کوتاه. And here are the other vocab. So building is ساختمان. The informal is ساختمون. And then city is شهر. So it's like literally we need to say something like this. The shortest building in this city is. این کوتاه‌ترین ساختمان در این شهر است. And the informal of ساختمان, we said it's ساختمون, and the informal of dar is to. We learned that in the previous lesson. And then the contraction of شهر است is شهر. So this sentence in informal and a little bit faster is این کوتاه‌ترین ساختمون تو این شهر. We said earlier that there's two irregular comparative adjectives, like خوب becomes بهتر and خیلی becomes بیشتر. There's also two irregular superlative adjectives. So خوب becomes بهترین and خیلی becomes بیشترین. So it's actually a little bit easy to remember because we just add this ending to بهتر. And then we add this ending to بیشتر. So بهتر becomes بهترین, بیشتر becomes بیشترین. Let's see an example with the best. So we want to say this is the best movie of this year. So again, the best is بهترین. And then movie is film, and this year is امسال. This year is not in sal. It's wrong. امسال. All right. So it's like literally we need to say something like this. The best movie of this year is. این بهترین فیلم امسال است. A little bit more informal. امسال است becomes امساله. این بهترین فیلم امساله. And also this ezafe that you see here stands for of this here. So here's a summary of what we learned in this lesson. Again, for the comparative adjectives, we add the suffix tar to the adjective, and then for superlative, we add the suffix tarin to the adjective. And then these two rows here are the irregular ones, which خوب, we do not add tar to it. خوب becomes behtar, and then for superlative is behtarin, and then خیلی becomes bishtar, and then bishtarin, which you just need to memorize them. We almost reached the end of this video, but there's just a few important points that you need to know. And so far, if you like this video, please don't forget to like it, to subscribe to my channel, and also to share this video. Here's a very important point that you need to know, and I'm going to use this example to explain this point. So here we have the adjective قشنگ, which means beautiful. The comparative adjective of beautiful in English is not beautifuler, but it's more beautiful. But in Farsi, it's still قشنگتر. So the point here is that in Farsi, no matter how many syllables the adjective is, we still add the suffix to the adjective. So this one قشنگتر, and for most beautiful, we still add the suffix tarin to the adjective قشنگترین. And I've seen the students making the mistake of literally translating this. So for example, they want to say more beautiful, so they literally say بیشتر قشنگ. But again, we just need to go ahead and add the suffix tar to the adjective, which is actually easier, and it works with every adjective, or the same with superlative adjectives too. We don't need to literally translate most beautiful. We can just add the suffix tarin to the adjective. And here is another example. For example, geran, which means expensive. In English, you need to say more expensive, but in Farsi, we can just add the suffix tar to it and be like geran tar. And for most expensive, we can just add the suffix tarin and say geran tarin. A very helpful point, which is important to know, is that in Persian, when we want to compare our age to our siblings, we use the two adjectives bigger and smaller. But in English, it's common to use older and younger. For example, if I want to say I have a younger brother, literally I need to say something like I have a smaller brother. So من یک برادر کوچکتر دارم. And کوچکتر, a little bit more informal, is کوچیکتر. Or if I want to say I have two older sisters, then I need to say من دو or دوتا خواهر بزرگتر دارم. So it's like I need to say I have two bigger sisters. Or if I want to say my siblings are older than me, خواهر و برادرهایم, this is the word for siblings, از من بزرگتر هستند. So I have to say my siblings are bigger than me. We reached the end of this lesson. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If so, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also share this video. Also, if you have any questions or if you have any comment or feedback, please leave it in the comment section. That would really help me a lot. And also your support is greatly appreciated here. See you in another lesson. Khuda Hafiz.